All right, everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for all of the clinicians here today who were helping us out as we go through our day. And we're about to move into our clarinet masterclass. And I just want to introduce our clarinetists who are playing today, and maybe the three of you, as I call on you, you can unmute yourself. So I sort of put out an email just saying, hey, we'd love to have a couple people willing to play. So I really appreciate that they're willing to play for all of you. Here's what I would love for you to do as you're listening to these players. Really take note on the techniques that work for them as we try and make things better, how it would apply to you in the music you're working on. Whether you're at a more advanced level or less advanced, a lot of the techniques apply. And I also love it if people can cheer each other on. So for these brave players, just go ahead and put some notes in the chat to support them. So Ian, if you're here, can you unmute yourself? And I'm going to get your music queued up. And we have so many people here, I can't see you myself, but Ian, if you're here, go ahead and unmute.
I'm here.
You're here, fabulous. Yep. Okay, great. So tell you what, I'm going to get your music on screen. And could you share with the group kind of what your focus is for this piece?
You mean why I'm doing it?
Well, yeah, why you picked it, and if there's anything in particular that you would like some help with this one.
Well, phrasing, really.
Okay.
I heard it on YouTube, written for oboe. Then I heard a recording of it played on the clarinet. And this woman had a long flowing dress on down to the floor. The way she swayed, it really made the whole thing so poetic or graceful. And I just fell in love with it.
That's awesome. And so I'm not sure if you're wearing the long flowing dress, but we can still try and get that sense of flow. So I asked our participants to send in a video just so that we can hear them with the best sound. And we're still going to work live on Zoom, but that way we know we're getting good sound in case Zoom is acting up. So thanks, Ian. I'm going to put your piece on and we'll all give it a listen.
Hello, my name's Ian again.
Ian.
Can you hear it okay, Ian?
Yep.
Can't hear him well.
Oh, beautiful job, Ian. Everyone's clapping for you. Really nice.
Bravo! I
So,
quit.
there you are, inspiring people. Yeah, Ian, it's beautiful. I'll tell you what, I have lots of feedback for you, but just a question for you. As you're listening to this, is there anything you hear that you know you'd like to improve over what's already quite good?
Yes. I also play a jazz saxophone, and on this part on the clarinet I saw on YouTube, she did a lot of bending of notes, which really sort of brought it alive. I didn't do it on this occasion because I wasn't sure whether it would work over this system. But
Yeah.
other than that, I think the middle part where you get from 21 to 37, it's forte all the way through. It'd be easy for that to become dull, I think.
Yeah. Well, so I like that you're looking at the piece and sort of looking at how it's structured as a whole and saying, oh, here's a soft, gentle part. Oh, here's a strong part. How can I keep it from sounding the same, right? And I think as musicians, we want to tell stories. So it's certainly, I personally think that using vibrato and pitch bending can totally enhance a piece of music. When I was first learning, like, classical music was, I had a classical teacher, vibrato was like very low class and very discouraged. But now we live in a world where we're influenced by so many great musicians, and most other musical forms use vibrato and scooping. So the same techniques you use on saxophone work great on clarinet. So I feel like you could totally add those in there if you like. There's some great recordings of this. I think there's a really good one of Corrado Giuffretti playing this with accordion, and he uses vibrato and scoops. And so if you haven't heard that, that would be a good one to listen to. I like so much of what you're doing. You know, I always listen both for musical things and just kind of fundamental clarinet things. And as I look at you on the screen here, you're super relaxed. I always look to see if people have tense shoulders, and your shoulders are relaxed. Your fingers aren't moving much. Your hand position is great. So you've got so many great habits, and your basic tone is really, really quite nice. So there wasn't a lot in there related to technique that was raising any red flags for me. I think this is the kind of piece where there's so much we can get into musically, and maybe I'll offer some suggestions for you just to think about it. One of the things I love that you're doing well is when you're starting these phrases, you're doing a great job of starting gently and letting the music grow. So you're using your air really effectively on those places. And I think all of us listening could hear the shapes that you were trying to create. So you have a really good natural sense of musicality. What I listen for are there things that sometimes the clarinet's doing that might be interfering with your musical story. So you have a couple notes that tend to pop out, and they're common clarinet pops. The first one, you know, da, 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 that E flat, which you have a few times in here, that C, E flat, your E flat tends to pop out. And one of the reasons I like to record myself when I'm practicing is to kind of listen for things like that. And I'm being really picky with you, Ian, because it was quite good, but you're such a good player, we might as well make it better, right? So that sometimes that's just a finger issue. Like, our pinky might be a little vigorous, but it would be just a good interval for you to take. And anytime we're going up, it helps if as our fingers are moving, we put in a little bit of a crescendo, right, to smoothen it out. Can you just try that interval a couple times for me? So do you know the one I mean?
The C to E flat.
Yeah, and I'm listening, and just play it a couple times. What I'm listening for is total silky melted smoothness. Good. Well, that one is better. I can't see your right pinky.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Let's imagine that your right pinky is, if you're using your right hand for the E flat, that you're just squishing a marshmallow. So it comes down really gently. That's nice. That's better. Good. So I want you to try that first long slur, the first 4 bars, And, you know, think of maybe backing off on that E flat and hitting it more lightly. And all the other phrasing you did, keep the same. It was gorgeous. Yeah, great. So right there, A, C, the C pops. Did you notice that?
No.
Okay, so try that interval, A flat to C. Well,
That's better with the right hand down, of course.
that's fine. You know, here's what I love, Ian, and this is just for all of us. Whenever we have a tricky interval, Ian just played it 4 times, and I heard it getting smoother and more connected each time. So part of you might have been analyzing, oh, yeah, I need to make that, the A flat's kind of a wimpy note. I need to make it louder. I might need to back off on the C. I need to think of, we're going from all the holes open virtually to most of the holes closed. And when we do that, we want it to sound like our air hasn't changed. It's just but we have to imagine that our air has to go through a longer tube. Well, it does. So for me, there's like a little extra zing. If it was a spray nozzle, I'm adjusting it to be smaller and faster there. Sometimes I consciously think those things. Sometimes if I just play that interval over and over, the unconscious part of our brains is so, you know, sophisticated, it'll just kind of make those adjustments. So for you, I think it'd be an interesting exercise to listen to your recording really with the focus on what intervals weren't smooth. Take those intervals and practice them. And when we start making it part of our practice routine, we start to automatically adjust those same intervals when they come up in other pieces. Some other intervals for you to watch, things like bar 31, the open G to the D, very similar, like lots of open notes to covered. That one was popping. So little things like that. I want to look at the second half where the melody has a bit more ornamentation written in, all those 16th notes and stuff. You know, you have good finger technique and it's there. I think you can make it sound a little more effortless and free. In a piece like this, some of that is actually playing less metronomically. So, you know, instead of ya-da-da-da-dum, it's more of this ya-ba-da-da-dum, right? The way we would sing it. And you mentioned the lady in the flowing dress, right? So ya-da-ba-da-da-dum, you know, ya-da-da-da-dum, ya-da-da-da-dum. So there's a little bit of room to play with it. And I think some of the time when you hit the 16ths, your air started pulsing on the beat a bit, ya-da-da-da-da, instead of being super smooth. So here's what I want you to try. I want you to try, how about 47 to 63 with pickups, and just think of it a little more, ya-da-da-da-da-da. Don't rush those pickups, ya-da-da-da-da-da. You can just kind of make them feel a little stretched and free. So I'm looking for smoother air and freer with the timing. That's okay. Let's pause there. That's nice, Ian. I like a lot of what you're doing there. So sometimes when I'm trying to play a piece more freely and I want to take time with it, sometimes I'll sing it, because singing and it doesn't matter if you're a horrible singer. I'm not a great singer, but it sort of helps me get in touch with it. So an interesting section, if we just look at these 4 bars before 63, if I played it kind of straight, kind of literally playing what's there, it's going to sound okay, but it's a little bit mechanical. You know, it's okay, but that's a little bit boring, right? So I would say, well, what could I do with that? Dum, ya da da dum, ba da dee ya da dum. So there's this, what I find in this music, we tend to stretch the beginning of a beat and rush the end. If I had all 16th notes, it would almost be like that's kind of the rhythmic feel. So I look for places to stretch. You know, things like that, right? Just to kind of be playing with it. Do you want to try that section? And let's just think of stretching beginnings and see what happens. Yeah, to me, you're like a little bit more flowy there.
Yeah.
I can see your sweater flapping in the breeze a little bit there.
So
Yeah.
to start with, it was a bit too mechanical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so all of these little decorations really reflect that in the tradition of this music, it's traditional to play the melody kind of straight the first time and then to embellish it. So whoever arranged this, you know, Robert Langfeld wrote in those embellishments, but normally you'd just be doing it on your own. You know, it's, you're imagining the decorations you would put on if you were improvising. So personally, if I was playing this as a solo piece, I would interpret that as an improvisational style, and just make it free. Yeah. So really, you're playing beautifully. I think on the clarinet mechanical side, it's some of the intervals, especially leaping up, you could make smoother by just really listening to your air, but making sure your fingers are landing more gently. Overall, your fingers are good. I think you're underestimating the power of your pinkies. So get those more gentle. And then musically, in this style, to be just a little bit freer, I think is going to fit. Does that all make sense?
It does, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, when I was because I'm coming back to this now after a long hiatus, and when I was at the height of my ability, I found trilling with you call it little pinky, don't you?
Yes.
The fifth finger. I found that quite easy, and the reason I found it easy was because the whole instrument was balanced with my thumb and my mouth. And at the moment, I can't get that balance back, and the instrument wobbles a bit when I trill like that, and I just don't know what the difference is.
Well, so a couple thoughts. I mean, you can experiment with this. If you're hammering more, obviously that's putting more pressure on the instrument, which could be causing it to wobble. But if our embouchure is really good and nice and round, it's not gripping the clarinet super firmly. And so if you used to be a biter and now you're not, which is a good thing that now you're not, there's a little ability. For me, I like having a neck strap, and I use one that's a little bit springy, so it's not restricted, but that
I've got one.
Yeah, I find that helps. So I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think you look pretty relaxed, so I think maybe just lighten your fingers a little bit might help.
Well, I was lucky enough to get to a point where I didn't move my fingers very much at all, which is something I aimed at and actually achieved it. But having gone from a biter to a non-biter, my embouchure is all different, and I found my top lips very weak. And I went to ear spasm, and he's got an exercise for doing that, where you do this movement, and it stops you biting. So I'm working on that at the moment.
I think that's great. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, earspasm.com, it's Michael Lowenstern's YouTube channel. He has some great suggestions. Also, look up Dr. Cornell Wallach has a book called Embouchure Drills that's all stuff, some with clarinet, some without, that really help strengthen those muscles.
I've got that as well.
Great. Well, Ian, thank you so much. I'm sorry, I know we could go on for hours, but we need to wrap up your session here. So thank you for playing. Thanks, everyone, for cheering Ian on in the chat there.
Thank you, everybody.
That's great. Thanks, everyone. All right. So, Nancy, if you can unmute yourself, please. I'm going to get your music in place and maybe share with the group your piece here.
Great. Yeah, it's great to be with everybody. It's sweet to come after you, Ian, playing Oblivion. I got into clarinet after, oh my gosh, I'm not sure, 30, whatever years, some years ago, because of tango music. And Oblivion is one of my favorite ones to play and dance to. It's such a beautiful one. This one that I'm doing today is not a tango one, but probably a lot of people know it, Sicilian. And I played it, just learned it recently during COVID, and played it in a Zoom concert meeting. Been sort of playing it as a duet. So I don't know, Michelle, if you got the link.
Yes, I think I do. Yep.
Okay.
I have it
To
here.
play, for me, I'm interested in, dynamics, tone, just getting into the feel of it, and making my intention of what I want the clarinet to sound actually coming through, to the flow of the piece. Does that make sense, Michelle?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, great. Let's give it a listen. beautiful job, Nancy. And so nice that you're able to play with piano too there. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So you already had some very eloquent things you were listening for. Let me just ask you, as you listen to that, is there anything else you hear that you have questions about or that you would like additional support in?
I think there was some where it's coming from the da 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 ba ba, you know. I just how to work that where again my intention of where I want to go with my clarinet actually shows up. So that's the one thing, and then the other piece is the at 55 or so when the piano sort of takes off and I have more of the little light quiet dolce whatever there, and I feel like I'm totally trying to be underneath the piano, and maybe I'm not doing enough expression of what I have. Anyway, those would be some things.
Okay, fabulous. So again, I think we just heard another performance where you have beautiful musicality, some really nice expression going on, and I love that not only do you have a sense of what you want to do with the music, you're for the most part doing it really convincingly, which is great. And overall, your tone is sounding quite nice. And again, I see lots of great habits. You know, just looking at the still we have on screen, your hands position looks great. So I see lots of great habits there. And I like that you've taken this and sort of made it your own arrangement, which I like. So your choices to change octaves in places, I think is beautiful. And as musicians, given it wasn't written for clarinet originally, we have that freedom, and sometimes that makes it more powerful. So I have a few comments for you. Are you there, Nancy?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I put the music up there. Yes.
You suddenly, there was a gray screen. I just wanted to make sure you're still present. Okay.
Yes, I am.
Fabulous. So one of the things that I hear throughout the music that I'm not sure is intentional is there are places where a good example of that would be kind of around 18 here. I think you were doing that one up the octave, where we have this ya da 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 da, where I feel like you're accenting every beat just a little bit, and I think that's with air more than tongue, and we, you know, because we're good internal timekeepers, we want to make sure that's not coming out with the breath. So I'm exaggerating it, but I hear a little bit of this. Right? Obviously I'm overdoing it, but I hear that tendency. And I'm wondering, how would you sing that phrase, actually? Curious.
Da 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 ba da 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 da. Yeah, I probably still do a little bounce in it, but I would want it to be more flowing.
Okay, great. Yeah, you know, nothing wrong with having a little bounce if that's how we feel it goes. I think what would help it to sound more flowing then is to, I don't have a, oh wait, yes I do. So as we're looking at the music here, to just think of where the phrase is going overall, right? So if it was totally smooth, and sometimes I'll practice a phrase all slurred with this in mind. There's an example of me singing horribly, but it doesn't matter because I'm just doing it for myself to figure out where I'd want the phrase to go. So for me, I hear it something like that, right? So I could have those swells as long as I also have that. Right? So that overall the big direction is there. So maybe that's the way to combine those two. Can you try that phrase?
Sure.
Okay, great. I think
I didn't have to be so loud at the end there. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's all right. So one of the things I am curious about is personally when I look at a phrase and there's a peak note, I feel like even though we write our crescendos as kind of a straight arrow, the actual shape in most phrasing is that we get louder, and right before the peak note we want extra build in. So it's kind of like And the winner is da-da-da, right? So we want that excitement leading up to the end of it. And what I don't like is that you're fading on the two notes before the A. And to me, I feel like we're losing some of the impact of the phrase. So can you try those first two bars again and just see what it's like if the E, F, G crescendos into that A? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe that's just my...
Are you talking about the second measure?
Both
Going
of
to
them.
the, yeah.
Yeah, so that could apply both to where I've penciled it in, which is bar 19, but also to make sure we're heading for the A in 21 as well, which I think you were doing naturally better anyway, so it was more that first instance in 19. So you can listen to the recording, listen to the playback. I think that Jessica is going to put these recordings on the International Clarinet Association YouTube channel, so see which one you like. To me, that just sort of supported the peak of your phrase better. So that's something to consider when we're looking at shape of notes. So even though we draw it straight, more crescendo before the peak note, and even though we draw a straight fade out at the end, we kind of do more fade out on the last note, right? So that we taper away. And generally, your first notes and last notes are really good, but you're not always supporting your peak note, I think, throughout the piece. So just some style things to consider here. Little minor notes I wrote. 12 and 13, where you have the staccato. You're doing a nice staccato, but the piano is also doing some staccato there. Boom, boom. Whenever we're playing in an ensemble, we have to match articulation with other instruments. And if they're not wind instruments, sometimes it's quite different. You know, the way string players do staccato is different from clarinetists, and the way piano does it. So piano strikes it, and even if she's trying to have quick fingers, it's a little more resonant than us going doot, doot, right? So what I hear in the piano is boom, boom. So if I were playing staccato with a pianist, I would do more stopping with my air. Boom, boom. If I was playing with a bassoonist, I'd be short and perky. Boom, boom, right? So just a suggestion to really, when you have these accompaniment parts, really match the piano as much as you can.
A question on that stopping the air. So, or the staccato is done differently, sometimes with the tongue and sometimes just with the
Our
short
breath.
air, right? So when you say stopping the air,
The stop blowing kind. So,
right.
Which normally I prefer stop tongue, but that might be more piano like boom, boom, right? That kind of effect. So just something to experiment with. I'm being really picky, but it brings the issue, since you are playing with piano, of how we play in ensembles, right, with other people. Oh gosh, I'm looking at the clock. I got to be fast here because I have about 2 minutes left. So a couple other little things. Throughout, I feel like your dynamic range could be a bit larger. You're doing some beautiful phrasing and such, but most of the time it's written piano or pianissimo, you know, other than there's this mezzo forte and a couple fortes. But I feel like you could let the phrases just build even more, and also look for timbre change. So on the second page, whoopsie, sorry, I didn't mean to be drawing. Okay, I'm going to turn that off, otherwise my scribble will be there, and I'll put it back on again. Okay, second page of this, where, maybe that's not the spot. Yeah, oh, here it is, where it's pianissimo. Just as you're winding down to the very end, it's hard to play super soft that high. That's where we can play with timbre too, right? So when I'm playing at the beginning of the line, I might be a little stronger. If I want to get for that really soft effect, of course I'll be softer, but I don't want that high C to wimp out. I might also choose to really round my corners, get my tongue higher, and go for a gentler sound. You know, just that really sweet, far away timbre, and it gives the illusion that I'm playing much softer. I don't know if that's coming through my mic, but can you try that pianissimo, do that right at the end, and just aim for a really gentle, far away sound, like now you've traveled into the next village and we're just remembering your sound. That's the idea. To me, that had a really beautiful kind of ethereal tone quality to it, which I really like. Yeah, so you're a great flexible player. I think you should experiment. I think you do a great job of putting in the intense timbre, but you're not always exploring the gentle timbre as much as you could. So just something to consider there. Two other quick things, and then we have to move on. Watch your pitch on the throat tone A's, right? They tend to be sharp, as with all of us. So I was trying to see what fingers you were adding, but I really noticed at 41 where you're landing on it. So you may want to consider adding more fingers when you have a long sustained A, just because that one sticks out a little bit.
Yep.
And when you were doing the accompaniment part, you asked me about that. So the double bar, sort of 45-ish. I thought you played it really well and you had nice expression. Partly the way it's written so low, you're less likely to cover the piano. So I actually thought your expression was good. What I did notice is that you were pulling the tempo back. So in your attempt to be really expressive, you started, your piano player kind of went with you a little bit, but I felt like she was wanting it to go faster. So just to make sure we can be soft and gentle and expressive without actually slowing down the tempo. But but I don't think you were, at least from what I heard, I don't think you were too loud, and I think that sounded really good. Yeah. All right. Does that give you some things to work on, Nancy?
Yeah, very, very much so. Somebody was asking about the timbre, the high, that soft part that you were just referring to. What is timbre? Somebody asked.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Timbre is the quality of tone. So our human voice does it really well. I could take one note and go, oh, same note, different sound qualities. All my favorite clarinetists experiment with timbre and really enhance the music by changing timbre. And that's something you can experiment. Just take one note like that high C and just say, well, how many different timbres can I get? There's slightly different tone qualities I can get just by you changing my oral cavity and such, and that's something to experiment with. So, Nancy, thank you so much. I love the way people are cheering Nancy on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Brigitte, we're going to switch to you. I'm getting your music up, but why don't you unmute yourself? Say hi.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for volunteering. And Brigitte, I'm going to echo with you. Can you see if the echo cancellation is turned on?
Yeah, I see it. Audio settings, huh? Yeah. Echo cancellation. Yeah, I will. Yeah, I put it on. Yes.
Thank you.
Now it's okay, I think. Yes.
Yeah, much better. Thank you for doing that. Then I can hear you better. All right. Sorry, I'm just going to get your music. So you're bringing a tough piece to us. I'm going to put it on screen. Any particular focus you have for us?
Yeah, it's I practiced this piece some last year, and then I started again since after my I had this exam, so it's not quite ready yet. The one thing I'm really still struggling with is the long. It's on page 3. This long, yes, all these fast notes there. Yes, how to exactly play it, because I did it in my lesson on Thursday. And then my teacher said, yeah, how do you group it? And then he said, maybe you should group it by 4. But yeah, it's still difficult to have like a line in it or something. So I'm not quite sure.
Okay, great. We'll take a look at that. So in the interest of time, I may not play your whole video.
Yeah, maybe the first part, because he said the first part is, should it play more musical, he said. So maybe you have some suggestions.
Great, let's give it a listen here. pause you there.
Yes,
That's
right,
the first
yeah.
half of this piece.
Yeah.
Great job, Brigitte. Very impressive.
Thank you.
Applauding for you. Yeah, really, really nice. So you're doing so many things well, and I know you're just getting back into this piece, so
Yes.
you're exploring it. I think you're doing a lot of things well. You know, you've got great fast finger technique and some brilliant style things going on. One of the things I love that you're doing is experimenting with tempo and pacing and really working with that. And that makes this piece a lot more virtuosic, right? And I think you have some great ideas with that. So I want to explore that a little bit further. And I think there's also room for you to experiment with timbre changes. It's going to give you one more color to add into the variety that you're trying to create here. Right off the beginning, I like how you're pacing the 16th notes. Sorry, I'm speaking in North American rhythm. Hopefully you know what I mean. Right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. And, but I think you're kind of ignoring the long notes a little bit.
Oh.
They're like, they need to have some oomph there. And Cavalier does this neat thing where you're kind of thinking it's the last note of the phrase. Oh, but maybe it's actually the first note of the next phrase, you know. So I love your first note, you know, but we need to think of what are we going to do with this next long note, the C. I felt like it got ignored a bit. Yada yada dee da yum. That needs to have real heart and presence, and as do all the long notes. Yada yada dee dee yum. There's like this C sharp. We're not expecting a C sharp. That should be a yum, a real tension spot, right? But a yum, yada da 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 yum. So I feel like all of those long notes. If you ever watch a conductor conducting a long note, right? They never just go. They always put movement in it, like dum, you know, dum. We need to have that feeling that we have that tension going through it. So can you try? How about from the beginning up to where it says meno? And I love the pacing you're doing and stuff. I want you to do more with those long notes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, some nice ideas there. These little gestures at the tempo at the end of the second line, bring it up. I'm curious why he put a quarter note there.
Yeah, I'm not quite, the rhythm is not quite well, yeah, I know.
I just would encourage you to explore lingering on those a little bit. I like the little bilidom, but maybe more bilidom.
Yeah, it should be longer, right? I keep keeping it short.
Yeah. Okay, good. I feel like within your phrase, you can have more dynamic contrast. So, yeah, it's loud, but we don't want it to be just all loud. So what if you had more of this? That kind of effect, right? So we're adding more up and down shape to it as you're playing with the tempo.
Oh, yeah.
So how about try that same section again, and I want you to add more dynamic contrast in there.
Okay. Okay.
Woo! Now, to me, I love that. I feel like you're adding some magic to it, right?
Yeah,
it's really starting to tell a more interesting story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, there's no way. Like, look at the way the dynamics are written here. It says forte, and then there's nothing else until we're at the bottom of the page. There's a little piano in there. So you need to really bring that dynamic spectrum to it to tell your musical story. That was beautiful. Okay, great. I want to. So that whole kind of concept applies to this whole opening section. I want to jump to the Adagio Cantabile. When you think of the words adagio cantabile, right?
Mm.
You know, think of the kind of scene that comes through. Probably fairly mellow. Could you sing for me just a little bit of the beginning? I don't care.
Okay, I try.
Okay.
Re, sol, mi, sol, re, no, si, la, re, sol, si, re, no, si, la, re, sol, la, si, do, re, sol, mi, sol, re, sol, si, sol, la, si, yeah, fa, sol, la, si, do. Yeah, it's too high.
I love it when people can sing in solfege like that. That's wonderful. Great practice. So when you sing it, the reason I asked you to sing is it gives you a glimpse into the mood that you want to create.
Yeah.
So you have a mood that's gentle, but there's also kind of this tension and suspense, you know, bum, which I really like. Because it could also be sunny and happy and butterflies.
No.
But you're going for a little bit more tension in there. When you played it, it came across a little too bouncy and perky.
Okay.
Part of it was how you ended the notes with the rest. So I want you to think of the music continuing to move through the rest. Don't let the rest interrupt the music. The rest is part of it, right? But sometimes what's helpful is to play it with no rest at all to figure out what we would do musically. Sorry. Let's say that's how I'm shaping it, right? So I'm kind of crescendoing for a bar, then diminuendoing. I want to keep those rests crescendoing as well. So even though I have space, the crescendo is there. Can you try playing that section and just really keep the music going through the rest?
You mean I don't have to play the second note fourth, but just making the crescendo, you mean?
Let's do it once where you keep it all long and then play it again as written, but with that same musical idea. Great, let's just go that far. Now, I love the mood you're creating. See if you can keep that mood with the space there.
Yeah. No, my space was too short.
Yeah. So maybe the space could be a bit longer, but I like the mood. You have a bit of a tendency to accent after a rest.
Yes, it seems to. Yeah.
That's what was getting in the way of the line. So when you make them long, your articulation was really light. So you want to keep that light articulation throughout this whole section. And this is a section where you can really play with timbre, right?
Yeah, okay.
Very, very sad, right? And then boom, ba 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 bum. When we get to the little turn RAL bar, I know we got about 3 minutes left here, so I'll try and as much as I can. You are a little bit maybe too accented there. So make sure that it flows as if it's in the same octave. Right? So just connect them more. Do you want to start where it says RAL in the second line of that adagio?
Okay.
Good. Can that be just more? More
It's too loud, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if the turn wasn't there, there'd be no accent, right? So you just want to make it really graceful and gentle. Again, sing it. You know, as I sing it, it gives, and I do it without the ornament first. It tells me where I want to get louder, where softer, but not sometimes we see a trill or a turn or an ornamentation and we play it really hard. That's our inclination. Our body goes, yikes. So you want to make sure you're not accidentally accenting those kind of things. All right, you had asked me, oh, one more. So I'm just going to flip through. Where's the grandioso? Okay.
Yes.
So the grandioso, there's another opportunity to change mood. You played so well through here, so many nice things, but it's grandioso, and suddenly we go into these weird flats, right? So it's very gentle before it, ya da 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 da, and then all of a sudden, da ba ba ya ba ba ba. There's something different here. So I feel like you need to change the tone there, be more intense. Can you start the measure before the grandioso and see if you can make that grandioso bigger and bring out the flats more?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I wouldn't make the D the loudest note there. There's something intense here.
Oh.
Oh, sorry, I didn't play that well, but... There's a chance to kind of pull it down a bit more, but to just bring out this darker sound here.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Why don't you try again from the bar before that?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, nice. So I like how you changed quality from da to boo, right? So those are the kind of things I think you can experiment.
Yeah.
And you were asking just in our last minute here about groupings. I actually think you're off to a really nice start with how you're grouping things. I think your long run, which was mostly in groups of 4, I think, or
that was the purpose. Yes.
But I think you're pacing it well. I actually think I think you're on the right track there. And again, sing it to yourself. Other than that, I would just say, when you got to the end, it was just like all fast for the last sort of 2 flourishes. Maybe you want to pace it differently. So either not get quite so fast so soon, or consider slowing down into the allegro, and then you start the new tempo. There's no right or wrong there, but I feel like a little more variety at the end would help us.
Yeah, okay.
All right, Brigitte, you're just a great player, and
thank you so much.
It was so fun to hear you play. So thank you for playing for us. And
thank you so much for this interesting masterclass. It's very good.
No, thank you. Lovely to hear you play. So really, my thanks to Ian, Nancy, and Brigitte for being brave enough to play in front of 200 people here. And my hope is that all of you really learned from these players, right? The kind of things we talked about apply to all the music that we're doing. So thank you so much, everybody. That was lovely.